Welcome back to the channel. My name is Joseph Gutierrez, and this is Covering Compounding, where we focus on using high cash value life insurance as a foundational asset to build our portfolio and our tax-free wealth. Now, when we talk about infinite banking, what we're really interested in is creating a new passive cash flowing asset for ourselves. An asset that in turn can be useful for us in business, investments, as well as retirement. An asset that can give us growth independently of what we're doing in our life for income. We want the principles of what I call the foundational asset working for us, where we get uninterrupted compound interest that grows and we can access tax-free. For us, whole life insurance, specifically the cash value, exemplifies the passive guaranteed growth aspects of what we are looking for, as well as being able to borrow against it for our endeavors. That said, finding an agent that understands and creates these high cash value policies is easier said than done. Most don't have the tools, the know-how, the carriers, or the desire to put these high cash value focused policies together. And when you're out there shopping to set up your own infinite bank, you need to know what a good policy design is and what a poor policy design is. Now, in today's video, we're going to be doing just that. So let's jump on in and take a look at one of our top-rated carriers for high cash value and maximize our tax-free wealth, aka our infinite bank. So let's get at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and focus in here on one of our clients' policies. Okay, so when we're looking to put a high cash value life insurance policy together, a lot of our clients are coming from a certain perspective and they're looking to kind of maximize their wealth and minimize their taxes. So for one of our clients here, his name is John. He's a 45-year-old male and he's an executive at a tech company. Okay, so he makes a pretty good salary. Now, our friend John here, he's looking to kind of save up his money for investments. Okay, so real estate. He's kind of looking more into the short-term rental market here. There's some nice tax benefits with short-term rentals, but he's looking to save for real estate investing. Okay, so he's not looking to put his money to risk. He wants a safe, reliable rate of return as he accumulates what he needs for the down payment, renovations, kind of build a separate side business to kind of further his family's wealth as well as his retirement income. Now he's looking to put an asset together that kind of helps him accomplish this. Now, initially, John was kind of looking to utilize a high yield savings account. Okay. So this high yield savings account, a lot of people like to utilize them. Okay, they're going to get a nice interest rate every year putting our money into this high yield savings account. It's going to spit out kind of a decent interest rate, let's say about 4% a year. Okay, now the problem with high yield savings accounts that people like John kind of run into is the fact that they're going to be taxed. Okay, so every year you're going to get a 1099 int. Okay, so the interest that you accrue from that high yield savings account is going to be taxed, going to be treated as ordinary income. Now, if you're a high income earner like John and his wife, you're going to run into some issues here because this could possibly, over time, push you into a higher tax bracket, which is something that we don't really want, right? We want to save our wealth and build it over time. We don't want to be giving a bigger and bigger portion of it to Uncle Sam. Okay, so therein lies the issue. How can we build our wealth without sacrificing giving more of it to Uncle Sam than we have to? So instead, John was kind of looking at, well, what if I put together my own infinite bank? So one of the reasons that he was looking into infinite bank is he can utilize a safe asset class like whole life insurance. Okay. Now, whole life insurance policies traditionally don't have a whole lot of initial cash value if you do it the more traditional way. This is something that we're going to be seeing here shortly. But generally speaking, in a whole life insurance contract, we're going to have a cash value component and we're going to have our death benefit component. Okay. And over time, the cash value can be seen kind of like the equity of the policy that we can access. And when we're looking to put together high early cash value, high CV, or sometimes AKA our infinite bank, we want to maximize our early cash value so that all of our premium contributions, or the majority of it, show up in cash value as opposed to showing up as a large death benefit. Okay, having a large death benefit is great, but for the purposes of what we're trying to do, what John's trying to do, and many of our clients, we want to have that high early cash value so we can use this as our passive income asset that we can utilize the tax-free, tax-deferred aspects of. Okay, so when we put together a policy, we want to see that the majority of our premium shows up in the cash value. Okay, so this is our premium that goes into the policy. Now, what's nice about utilizing a whole life insurance contract is that every year we're going to get a dividend. Okay, dividends are non-guaranteed, but for the last 100 or so years, we've always gotten a dividend, with, at least with the major carriers out there. And for the particular carrier that we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be looking at Mass Mutual, one of our top carriers, and they have an impressive dividend of, looks like 6.3%. Excuse me, 6.6%. Just go back, 6.6% in 2026. Okay, and the loan rate is about 5.33%. So we have a nice little spread right there. Also, when we look at the cash value component of the policy, what's nice is that we're going to be growing, our internal rate of returns will be growing quite nicely. And generally speaking, we're going to have somewhere between 4.5 to 5% IRR. Okay, the IRR is after all the policy costs, the death benefit, and things like that. So as we can see right off the bat, our IRR, that 4.5 to 5%, is tax free. Okay, because the cash value is an essential component of that tax-free death benefit. So in order to get the same kind of 4.5 to 5% in the high yield savings account, we're going to have to get considerably more a percentage of interest compared to that 4%, probably in the 7 to 8% after we're giving a good chunk of it to Uncle Sam. So obviously the whole life contract is much better. Okay, so all that said, John kind of narrowed down what he was looking for and how he wants to build his tax-free wealth so he can put it into his future real estate investments, okay, as he learns the business and gets ready for them. Now, the issue, though, is that the initial agent that he was working with didn't really give him the design that he's looking for. And we recreated it for him and kind of showed not only what a poor design looks like, but a good design as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at a kind of a more poor design, at least for cash value. So in this case, this particular agent utilized the Whole Life 100 product, okay? Mass Mutual has a number of different products. They have an 8-pay, 10-pay, all these different type of products. Now, the Whole Life product's more of a legacy product that doesn't build cash value as effectively. But as we look here, we're going to go ahead and scroll on down. Our client here is looking to commit to putting about $100,000 into a policy for at least 10 years. Okay, and then he's going to decide what he wants to do after that, whether he wants to continue overfunding it or maybe cutting it down or doing reduced paid up, the RPU option. That's something that he's exploring. But at the very least, he wants to commit to about $100,000 every year for about 10 years and then see where he's at that point. So when the other agent put this together, we can see some interesting markers here that kind of tell us that this is not a policy that's designed for cash value. This is a policy that's designed, frankly, for heightened commission. Okay, so when we look at this, what's nice about Mass Mutual is that in the beginning of the illustration, which is what we're looking at, the illustration shows us kind of like a nice overview summary. Okay, so as we can see, we're putting in that $100,000 every year. And in our first year, our net cash value, unfortunately, is a big goose egg. Okay, so we see zero cash value. Okay, we also see a heightened death benefit of almost $4.7 million. And that's really what this policy is designed for. In this particular case, it's designed for a large death benefit and by extension, a large commission for the agent. But it doesn't really help John what he's trying to do. Okay. And we can also see, go ahead and erase some of this. We can also see another tell on this would be how long does it take before we quote unquote break even? How long do we have to fund this policy until our cumulative cash value equals our cumulative premium? And we have to actually scroll on down here and we see that right around our 14th year here is when the cumulative premium equals our cash value, or our cash value hits a point where our cumulative premium are roughly equal. So 14 years, okay? By that time, a lot of the opportunities that this policy was going to afford us have already passed because it's way over the 10-year mark, okay? So now that we've looked at a kind of a poor policy, let's go ahead and look at a policy that we would put together for our client John here. Okay, so it's the same carrier, Mass Mutual, but we're utilizing a different product. This is the high early cash value whole life policy. Okay, and we're going to be utilizing a couple different riders so that we can maximize the cash value even more. We scroll on down here. We can see, again, some of the basics about our client, 45-year-old male, non-tobacco, all that good stuff, putting in $100,000 a year. We're going to be making use of two riders, okay? So Mass Mutual calls it the LISR, or the Life Insurance Supplemental Rider, and the AILR, or the Additional Life Insurance Rider, okay? So if you've seen some of our videos in the past, we've gone into kind of the theory and how putting together a maximized cash value policy or infinite bank actually works. We want to put most of our money into what's called the paid up additions and a term insurance rider. That term insurance rider gives us the space, the max space, to build up those paid up additions. When we're building up paid up additions, it builds our cash value really nicely. Okay, so we want to get that cash value as high as possible. We're going to be utilizing the term rider and paid up additions. Okay, so we blend those factors in through these two riders. So we're not going to go into too much detail on some of that. We have videos for that, but suffice to say, we have this built into our policy, and we're going to see why it makes such a difference. Now, when we look, the next page here, kind of this summary page, just like before, what do we see? Well, in our first year, we put in the same $100,000, and our cash value is $92,443. Now, this is particularly better than our poor policy design where we had zero for the same $100,000. So this is what a good policy design versus a poor policy design, the big difference is, and what it can afford us is having heightened cash value, okay? And if we go by the same metric we were using earlier, which is to ask, when do we break even? When does the cumulative premium equal at least equal or slightly lower than the available cash value? We can see that it takes place actually in the fourth year. So the fourth year versus the 14th year. Okay, so obviously this is a design policy. This is a policy design that exemplifies high early cash value, which is kind of what the product is made for in the first place. Okay, so what's great also about Mass Mutual that we want to touch on here is the loan features and how we can access that cash value. Because growing cash value is nice, but we actually want to put it to use. We want to have it easily accessible. And what are the terms of utilizing that cash value? So generally speaking, when we go to access our cash value, we have two different options. We can do what's called just a general withdrawal. Okay, and that withdrawal is tax-free up to basis. Or we can utilize the loan feature, policy loan, okay, which has an interest rate attached to it. So for Mass Mutual in 2026 here, we're looking about 5.33%. But at the same time, it's also tax-free. Now, one of the things that we like about whole life insurance in particular is that we can extend those loans as long as we want, so long as the policy has a healthy amount of cash value associated with it. So essentially, we can keep rolling over those loans for as long as we want to and pay them back whenever we want and or not at all. Okay, and we'll see that here shortly. So we kind of put together a example for our client here in how he would take out a policy loan against one of his real estate deals for one of his real estate deals. What would that actually look like? So we basically reconstructed this illustration just with a policy loan made out for about $500,000. So if we go ahead and scroll on down. All right, right about here. Okay, so this is one of the kind of supplemental value tabular views here. So we can see, so there's a lot of numbers going on here, but we can see that we take out, say, a $500,000 loan in our 11th year. Now we can do that obviously earlier, but just to kind of exemplify, what would it look like? So we have our client here, John. He's going to be putting, oops, let's move this. He's going to be taking the $500,000. He's going to be putting into his short-term rental, right? A little business idea of his, and what does that look like for him? Okay, so he's going to take the $500,000, roll it into the property, do some value add to it, kind of build it up, make it nice, and have renters utilize it as short-term rental basis, right? So the idea is that as he's building it up and putting his cash value to work, what we want is our policy to continue accruing for us. That's that uninterrupted compound interest that we were talking about in our intro here. So what we can see, go back here, we can see that our cash value, even though there's a loan out against it, we saw the year prior that our cash value was about 1.1 million, and the 10th year, even though we take out this policy loan, we can see that our cash value continues to grow. So that kind of shows that this policy loan, we took out the $500,000, we put it towards the short-term rental or whatever business idea he has. We have our policy loan about 5.33%, and we're going to re-roll that every year, adding to the balance, and we're going to take our time to pay it off about 4 years later. So we've accrued, it's about $584,000, and we paid off through possibly like a refinance, something like that. But what's nice is that when we come back to our policy, we see that in this case, in this example, our 60th year, we have 1.595 million. So we pay off our policy loan and we have more than what we started with, right? Which is different than just putting in some kind of checking account. If we take a disbursement from our checking account, well, it's not growing for us anymore. Well, the nice things about high cash value life insurance, infinite banking, is that it's still growing for us. And what's nice is that with Mass Mutual in particular versus some of the other carriers that we have. So Mass Mutual, at least in the policy designs we put together, is a non-direct recognition carrier. So what does that mean? Now, we've talked about this in previous videos, but non-direct recognition basically says that whether we have a policy loan out or not, we're still going to get that 6.6%, at least in 2026. It kind of moves around. It kind of grows or decreases over time, depending on the interest rate environment. We're going to get that dividend rate whether we have a policy loan out against it or not. Okay, so this is very favorable if we're going to be actively using our policy year after year, borrowing from it, putting it to work in business, and or growing our funds, and even in retirement as well. So what we see here is that in our 15th year, we have 1.595 million. We go back to the example without a policy loan, our 15th year, 1.595. So there was no opportunity cost associated with this policy loan, which wouldn't be true with a traditional bank account, right? When you take money out of your bank account, there is a cost, there is an opportunity cost. we don't pay that opportunity cost with a whole life policy. That's one of the beautiful things about infinite banking and utilizing whole life insurance is that we don't necessarily have an opportunity cost. We can put our money to use, we can put it to practice with whatever we're doing, business, investments, even in retirement. And one last thing here, that if we kind of scroll, let's see, let's go back here. The other thing that is nice about this infinite banking and whole life insurance, high cash value, is that our policy is always growing no matter what we're doing. We can do a reduced paid up. This is RPU right here. We're doing it in the 15th to 16th year and the 16th year, yet our cash value continues to grow and continues to go up. Now, what's nice about this is this can help us in retirement quite nicely. Now, let's say we're 70 years old and our cash value has now accrued to about 2.5 million right here. What's nice is that we can access that cash value using the same policy loans, tax-free, or through just a general withdrawal, tax-free up to basis. This can help us in retirement, right? So a lot of different scenarios where this could be of use. And you can think of them on your own here, but a few that kind of come to mind. Let's say we're doing a Roth conversion. And this is pretty common with people in their 50s and 60s or so, that they're doing a Roth conversion. They're taking money from their traditional IRA and moving it over into a Roth. Got to pay the tax. They're doing all these different things. What if they need income? Well, they want it to go into their Roth account and grow over time, yet they got to pay tax. So they got to have to take an income source from somewhere. Okay, if they're in retirement already. Well, we have our whole life insurance policy. We can borrow from it or take just a general disbursement. We have 2.5 million to work with. Now, our cumulative premium is about 1.1 in this example, which we can see right here. We have so much extra cash value to work with. So this can be of great help to us in retirement, because when we take out that, let's say we wanted to take out, I don't know, $100,000 for whatever, for income, for anything that we're doing, well, we're not paying tax on it. So it doesn't become part of our taxable income, okay? Whether it's just a withdrawal up to our basis or a policy loan. What if, let's say we want to buy a kind of like a retirement beach house that we've always had our eyes on, okay? And we want to utilize some of our cash value for that. Well, we can borrow against our cash value and go take out that money for the down payment on a nice beach home, okay? And we have all this extra cash value to borrow from, and we don't necessarily have to pay it back. Whether we're borrowing or not, we can accrue over time. We can accrue interest over time, which overruns any kind of policy loan interest as we're borrowing from it. So that down payment on a nice second home, vacation home, we can utilize our policy for that as well. What if we want to help with the kids or grandkids' college saving fund? Well, we have more money to work with in our cash value. So just what we can see here is that our policy kind of grows with us. And just kind of in our closing thoughts here is that when people put together infinite banking type policies or high cash value policies, what they're really doing is they're saying, hey, I want an asset that I can utilize for whatever investments or business opportunities that I'm going through in my working years. But they're also showing is that, hey, I have this estate planning and tax-free income tool in retirement as well. Whether it's income or for that larger death benefit, which by age 70 is pushing pretty close to 4 million in this example, we have different options, and our policy continues to grow with us, uninterrupted compounding interest that grows tax-free and we can access tax-free, becomes a very versatile tool that we can use in a number of different scenarios, and one that I consider for most of my clients that are working professionals is an invaluable tool. Thank you for watching our video. In today's video, we looked at the difference between a poor policy design and a great policy design for infinite banking or high early cash value. We utilized the same carrier, same premium into each policy, but we showed how one can outperform significantly for cash value and usefulness for our client John here, and building their wealth for investments and or retirement income and different maneuverability in retirement. Okay, so it's a policy, it's an asset that has this guaranteed income source for us that can kind of grow with us over time. Okay, thank you for watching. If you are interested in putting together your own infinite bank or high early cash value type policy, whether whole life or even index universal life, feel free to click the link in our description. It's going to take you to our webpage where you can see much of our information. On that webpage is going to have a book now button where you can schedule a free online consultation. Okay. And that initial consultation kind of go over your financial situation, what your goals are, and how we can best help you put you in the best situation to grow your tax-free wealth through a high cash value design policy. Okay. Thank you once again. Feel free to click like and subscribe. Ring the bell for future content. And we look forward to seeing you on our journey towards financial independence, utilizing the foundational asset. Until next time.